Hey everybody, Tom here at Whistle Thicket Farmstead. Welcome back. We are in the mountains of western North Carolina, and it is definitely fall. It's the middle of October. October means firewood season. Though I tell you what, right now it's almost 80 degrees in October. That doesn't seem right to me, and I know it isn't. But that's what the temperature is. We haven't had to use firewood yet. But that's okay. I know we will be using firewood soon. I have been using firewood for about 3.5 years now, so I have learned some great hints and tips. I made some mistakes when I started harvesting firewood, so I'm going to share some of the mistakes I made, some of the tips I have for those people that are just starting their firewood or wood stove fireplace adventure, or maybe you have been using firewood for years and you're just frustrated, or maybe you just want some tips that might help you out too. So first and foremost, we are going to talk about safety. This video is not about felling trees or anything. It's about harvesting wood, splitting wood, and safety and hints and tips, okay? So we're not talking about felling trees in this video. But even when you're splitting wood, you want a pair of safety goggles. My eyes are too pretty to be lost to a splinter flying from splitting wood. So please wear some goggles. Second off, you want to use a wood maul to split your wood. This is not an axe. This is a wood maul. Do not use an axe to split wood. It is nearly impossible. It is not fun, and that's not what an axe was made for. Use a wood maul. You can buy a wood maul at most major hardware stores, Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, any place like that. You can get a wood maul in several different weights. This is a medium-sized wood maul. You can get one heavier. You can get one lighter. But the important thing to keep in mind is that splitting wood is not about strength. It is about leverage and being smart. So with that being said, when you split wood, you want a pair of gloves on. Why? Because you are going to be using the leverage of the wood maul. When you start your chop, your arm will be up here, but at the end, your hands will be towards the handle of your wood maul. That way you have a lot more leverage. And if you have gloves on, your hands are able to slide down the wood maul super easy, and you get a lot more leverage. So those are a couple tips that I learned. Do not use an axe to split firewood. That is not fun. Not fun at all. Okay, so the next tip, you have to use dry wood. You need to split dry firewood. Dry firewood means that your tree or the firewood has been sitting for close to a year. You might be able to get by your first year with 8 months of dried wood or something like that, but you really want dry firewood. First of all, you need dry wood for your wood stove. Second of all, you can't really split wet wood that easily. You can do it, but it is a pain in the butt. Let me tell you, I tried it, and it was more or less hopeless. If you have dry wood, with 1 or 2 hits with the wood maul, it is going to split in half. That's a great sign that you have dry wood. So, if you're hoping to do firewood for your first time this year, and you don't have any dead trees or any trees on the ground, you probably want to wait until next year or buy firewood. Which I don't think I would use my wood stove if I had to pay for my wood, unless I really had to. That's another thing. You need to plan ahead. I have about 30 trees down in the woods that I felled last year, and they have been sitting, they've been drying. So I have an ample supply of firewood. I just have to go get it. As far as wood harvesting, this is something I learned the hard way. My first year, I was super excited about my firewood, and I did all of my steps of first taking the tree down, then I would split my firewood into about 16-inch pieces. So I would chop my firewood into about 16-inch pieces, and then I would split it all right there where the tree was sometimes. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I did a lot of extra work. So what I do now is I do not split my firewood until I get close to the house. You want to do as little work as possible with firewood, okay? I don't even slice or chainsaw my wood into small sections anymore. I chainsaw it into about 6-foot sections. I load it up on my tractor, or I load it up onto our truck, and then I get the wood as close to the house as possible in 6-foot sections, and then I take my chainsaw out, and then I section my logs there. The reason why is that instead of having to carry 5 pieces of 16-inch firewood from the forest to the truck, I'm only carrying 1 piece of firewood, which, I mean, is heavier. It's about 4 to 6 feet long usually, but in the end, that is less work for me, which hopefully will be less work for you as well. So you want to be smart when you are harvesting your firewood. You want to do as little work as possible. Firewood is a lot of work. It isn't easy, but if you do it right, then you can do as little work as you need to. So I think that's really important. Another tip that I learned, I kind of have a triangle method right now. So I have my firewood racks are right here where I'm sitting underneath this carport. That's where I dry my wood. It's about, 50 feet from the house. Then right outside my front door on a covered porch, I have a small firewood rack where I keep about maybe 4 or 5 days of wood. I do not want to store all of my wood right next to the house. There's just something about having, the dried wood, the insects. I'd hate to have termites in my house. But I do have a little bit of wood there, and it is really, really nice to have firewood in the wintertime that you don't have to walk out and get when it's snowing. Because if it's snowing, you do not want to go out sometimes. Sometimes you just want to open the door, grab the firewood, and then you're good. So that's what I do. I have the triangle method. So I got my dried firewood here, which I'll show you in a little bit, but there really isn't any right now because I'm chopping the wood. Then I have a smaller rack by the house, and the third part of the triangle is I have a campfire ring that's located about 50 feet that way. The campfire ring is awesome for those random pieces of wood that just don't fit, or sometimes you just can't split something or what have you. So with those weird pieces of wood, I just toss them in the campfire ring, and then every now and then I sit down with my friends or family and we have a little campfire. I don't have to go look for firewood for my fire ring because I'm building it as I go. Another thing is figure out what type of firewood or trees you have on your property. I'm pretty lucky. I have walnut and locust are my 2 big ones. Then I have cherry trees, a little bit of oak, a lot of tulip poplar. Most of those are hardwoods. Those are great trees. But it really isn't true about pine, that you can't use pine in a wood stove. That's kind of a myth. People up north, that is sometimes their only option. It is true that pine does make more resin and more, tar and creosote in your wood stove. So you do have to clean it more. But you can use pine in your wood stove. Lots of people do it. If you live in Canada, that's your only choice. And I know it's cold in Canada because I've been there in the wintertime. So hopefully these tips have helped you out. I'm going to show you one more tip on how I split my firewood. So when I first started out splitting wood, I had a big old stump, and I would put my firewood on top of it and split it with my wood maul. But every time I would split it, the wood would go everywhere. I'd have to take the wood, put it back on the stump, reset, and it was very, very tedious. I had to bend over a lot to get that firewood, and it was not fun. This is the system I use now. You may have heard of this or seen it. I use tires to split my wood. It's super easy. The benefit of it is that once you hit the wood, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't explode into 3 pieces and go in 3 different directions. It does explode into 3 pieces, but it stays inside the tire. Inside the tire, this took me less than a minute to split 4 tires of firewood, and that's probably about 2 days of firewood for us, at least. It was super, super easy. I don't have to bend over and pick up all of this random firewood in a bunch of different places. I just pick it up. Super, super easy. I'm going to show you my little campfire, I guess, real quick to kind of end the video here. So a campfire ring is a nice thing to have on your homestead anyways, but if you have it close to your firewood pile, like I said, sometimes I get a random piece of wood that I don't want to chop, or sometimes it has a lot of branches, or sometimes it's a little rotten, or what have you. But I got my firewood right here, super, super easy, or my fire ring right here. I just throw in some of my brush there as well. I throw in some of my larger pieces of firewood every now and then I got my firewood for my campfire and for my wood stove. So these are some tips and hints, some mistakes I've made, and I'm sharing my mistakes with you because I don't want you to make the same mistakes as I mean, it's not easy to admit when you make mistakes, but you know what? With homesteading, we are all learning at our own rates, our own paces. We all have different things to share, which is another thing I love about homesteading, is there's so many great people out there on YouTube that have a lot of great info for me and for other people. So if you're new to firewood, don't get discouraged. It does take a learning curve. And I guess that's it for this video. We'll see everybody in the future. Keep on homesteading. Have a great afternoon. And it's going to be cold soon. And I guess just get your firewood ready.